Well, I think to be expected this time of year, games are going to be hard-fought, tight, tense affairs, especially when you've got teams that are fighting for the playoffs, are in the playoff hunt, fighting for position, which we could safely say is the vast majority of the Eastern Conference at this point. Coming into this one, I always suspected that, the current champions, and they are champions for the year, of course, were more than capable in the right mindset and playing in the right fashion after a good result at the weekend, were more than capable of causing a lot of problems. I thought we started brightly. We got on the front foot, which was great to see at the vast majority of the opening period, or opening 20 minutes. The game then went into a little bit of a lull. They got back into it. And the biggest, I think, frustration and disappointment when we saw how the game ended up, after getting back into the game and creating a couple of opportunities, was that, we'll reflect on the fact that we didn't really show enough sparkle and maybe connection and belief in the final third. And there were a number of moments where I think in games gone by, we may well have found ourselves in a much better shooting opportunity, goal scoring opportunity. But it wasn't to be tonight. We just weren't clean or clinical enough in that final third, and it created a very, very competitive game, which I'm pleased we got a point out of in the end.
I think Gary will start with Drake and then go down the line.
Yeah, Gary, out of 12 so far at home, there were 10 draws. Given that, in the scenario of you not being able to score in that first half, that's usually what ends up being the case. However, before the Zellerand goal, how did you feel about both how your team started off that second half, but then right before they scored, how did you think there was going to be a win?
Listen, I thought the second half, the first half, as I said, we started brightly and we're the best team for 15, 20 minutes. They started to get back into the game and started to show some of the qualities and credentials that they have and looked a little bit more threatening. Listen, let's not forget, there's some real talent in that team. Some quality players. So I thought they were better for maybe the final 15, 20 minutes of that half. We started the second half much brighter. We looked like there was some more purpose in our play. But yet again, without finding any real end product, and by that I mean serious threat on goal, or even to score and to break the deadlock. The game started to drift away from us again. They started to take a little bit more control. They shifted the momentum their way again. And there were some strange choices and some below par quality when we really needed somebody to step up and make a difference, and it wasn't to be. And then they get their goal. And that's what very good teams do. That's what champions do. They stay in the game, and then they find a way to, with few moments, now they're in front. Well, I've got to say, the response was terrific. The attitude of the team was terrific. At this point in time, it would have been easy, given our lack of cutting edge, for the group to have maybe felt a bit despondent and for the game to have petered out and got beat 1-0. And we didn't. Did we deserve to win it? No, not at all. Room made a terrific save off of Rios, but in all fairness, there were too many moments that we didn't make enough of. And at home, whilst we've looked bright in certain spells, we've got to understand and appreciate that against the top teams, and as we go towards the postseason, and having seen it once before with the group, so there will be some experience in our locker room, that when chances come along, and there may be few and far between, we've got to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Gary. We'll go to Tim next.
Hey, Gary. go to the goal that you guys scored itself. How excited were you to see, your MVP candidate linking up with 2 substitutions to finish that? And what did you see on the play that ultimately led to the goal?
Well, first and foremost, I think there was a real lack of connection, not just in the way that we built out or into that middle third, but there was a lack of connection from back to front, getting in behind and stretching the game out. I don't think there wasn't enough sacrifice, if you like, from players to stretch the game out and create those pockets to play into. And that was a big part of the conversation at half-time. So it was great to see Randall getting twice, once offside. Walker's distribution was immaculate. And the goal came from that. It was a terrific searching ball in behind their back line. Aki does a great job of connecting with Rios, which, as you've said, lovely to see from the 2 substitutes. They brought a different dynamic to the game. That's no slight on CJ or anyone else, but there are sometimes those games that you just need a new perspective. They brought it. There was a different life and different energy about the front line, and Daniel's connection with Hani was very, very good inside the box. Hani's still got a lot to do, and honestly, I've seen him play a lot better than that. I think we all have. There were times where it just wasn't working for him, but he stuck with it, and he's got himself a very important goal. And on a night where it may not have gone our way at all, it's been a big moment, and I thought it galvanised us for a short period. I think Rios' opportunity wasn't long after that. The referee's decision to send Luke off probably stuck a little bit of a pin in the whole event, and we lost some momentum. But look, I'm not complaining about the result. We didn't do enough, and it's a lesson learned. But we certainly have seen some qualities out of the group tonight that we've seen before, but just not in a elongated periods, not for long enough.
Then Gary, we'll go to Ben, we'll go back to Drake.
Yeah, kind of similar to Tim's question. We saw a bit of a longer shift for Ake. What did you make of his performance, not just with the goal, but in general?
Well, first and foremost, I thought he was very bright when he came on, and it's in keeping with some of the things that I've seen in training. He just looks like he's got a bit more energy and positivity about him. He had been working very hard up until the international break. He had some time off, and sometimes you need to go away and allow that core physical work to settle in, to go away and to evaluate where you're at and some of the things that have been really difficult in a new group. And he's come back and he's got a little glint in his eye. He looks like an individual who's saying, I'm going to make a difference here. I'm going to find that moment. I'm going to be effective. And I'm not sure that was the case before. There wasn't anything wrong, but I think there was so much going on in his world. Physically, he was trying to catch up. Mentally, he was trying to. Emotionally, he was connecting with the players. Lovely to see him out there for a little bit longer. Some really nice touches and connections with other people. Great to see. It's not that I don't think of course, that he can't be effective. It's just making sure that those moments continue to offer him the opportunity to build confidence.
Go ahead, Drake.
What do you think you'll miss, Gary, with Luke and Hani due to the accumulation of yellow cards, given that it's Philly at their place, and then of course just the fact that they offer so much in your attack?
Yeah, I've touched on the results tonight. I think we can look across the board and there'll be some of those results. Again, we'll go, wow, New England just don't stop. They're a machine. That's an incredible result there at DC. We've just come away from there. There were other maybe fixtures that I felt they're going to edge that, and they didn't quite. And I bet there were some people thinking, you know, maybe Nashville will take the result tonight against a Columbus side who are lower in the standings. But it just doesn't work that way this time of year. There's a lot of stress, a lot of anxious individuals for different reasons. I think the big difference of the weekend will be Philly have found their place, their groove, their position in MLS, and they're an elite group, a strong group, confident in what they do, confident in how they go about their business. The result, I'm sure, will disappoint them, but they know they're coming home in a game where they're 3 points behind us, and they've got a chance to close the gap. I don't see the game any differently to any of the top teams we've played in New York City, in DC just recently, going away to Atlanta in a cauldron, down there at Mercedes-Benz. It's not different. They're a tough team. It's going to be a difficult game. With Hanny out, yes, I've got to tell you, you might think I'm, just saying it now, but at some point he's got to take a break. He's had 2 games on the spin. We've got games coming up midweek again, so there might have been a little bit of rotation anyway. I'd loved him to have been there, of course. That's not to be the case. One door closes, another one opens. Somebody else gets a chance. We've got Aki come on tonight, who's done really well. The disappointment for Luke is he's just nudged himself in front of 1 or 2 of the other guys, and now he's going to have to miss out on the trip. But guess what? We've got 1 or 2 guys sitting in the background who are hurting over the fact that they've not been in the team and they've not been getting minutes. And I would hope that they see this as their opportunity to try and, say, you've been wrong.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Gary, a couple of things there with the goal again. I'm curious about, it looks like the team on that particular play does something that you're kind of asking them to do, like get the ball far into the area. But also the next thing is, does it seem to you that Aki playing inside the box is pretty much closer to what he can do instead of being so far away outside?
I think to your point, every team wants a dimension to their game. If we play in front of Columbus or any other team constantly, you become predictable. Making those choices, making sure that the connection, the timing, the efficiency and quality of the ball and the area you're working into or the person you're working with, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be well weighted. It's got to be thoughtful. Rather than, we see it in our group, we see it in other groups where it's just smashed into an area and there's no feeling in it. The ball was a terrific ball. It was a lovely connection. It was good movement. Everything about it was well timed. I think you're 100% right about Aki. Aki is at his very, very best. He is an instinctive, creative, very bright and comes alive inside that 18-yard box, in and around it, in fact. The more we can get him in and around that area, there's lots of instinctive things that he does that others won't. That's why he's a valuable individual. The job of the group as we move forward, for guys like Aki, and of course you can see guys like Hanny, they're able to do things that others can't in the most important of areas, and find that half a yard and make a difference with the right type of finish or the right connection. So I'm delighted that we're starting to see some of those qualities. Hopefully that can continue.
We'll wrap up tonight's session with Tim Sullivan.
Hey, Gary, you talked a bit about what the Philadelphia game means for the table. What are you expecting to see out of them on the field, and what do you remember from the game when they came and visited you guys here?
Well, I wouldn't expect anything less than a wholehearted, competitive effort from their group. Why wouldn't I? Secondly, their style of play and the dynamics of their group is something that they work on tirelessly, constantly. They're exceptionally good at it. The one thing that is hurting a lot of teams right now as you look around the league are omissions from the group. They were no different tonight without two of their top forwards through injury, and it puts a lot of stress on the guys that are playing and working. They'll be delighted to go back home, I'm sure, but it doesn't alter the fact that we're all going into our third game in a week. There'll be some choices that are made on players for both teams, I'm sure, that can have a big impact on the game. Lots of rotation and too much can lose some continuity and some core foundational pieces. Not enough rotation, and you get those lethargic performances. I would imagine Jim will be thinking about it just as much as I am, and I have no idea what he'll do. So we toss a coin as to who will be out there. We'll all have an idea as to what the other one might do. But what we know is we're in a position in the final stages of the season where these games are so exciting, so exciting. I'm looking forward to going there. He'll be looking forward to going back home. They'll be looking forward to turn the tables and get a result. And we'll be trying to make sure that we come out of there, at the very least, in the same position.